It's you good. Hello. Welcome. All right, we're talking about girls. So, good morning, everyone. It's probably like 4:30 now. Oh, 4:40. Hope everyone's doing good today. We're going to touch up on a subject that I haven't touched up on in a while. And that is girls. All right. So, first of all, we're going to start off. Why are girls mean to you specifically? You think that girls hate you. They don't. I'll tell you why. So, when it comes to chicks, one second here. Touch. Look as beautiful as I can, right? So, girls, why are they mean to you? Right? You're probably wondering, as a dude, it doesn't matter what age you are, you're probably wondering, what the hell? I didn't do anything to deserve that. Well, a lot of the times they're just trying to get your attention. And you don't really learn that unless an older person tells you about it. It's usually a mom that tells you about it. Mom didn't tell me about that. I had to figure it out on my own. In fact, I thought girls hated me for a long time. So no, they don't hate you. They're just trying to get your attention. They don't know how to. Just like a young person's undeveloped mind, they have an undeveloped sense of dude because they've been stuck in kind of like a house kind of situation. You know what I mean? A lot of dudes take advantage of this. The dudes that understand that, they'll go and they'll take advantage of them and they'll actually harm them in many ways. That's why there's a big push against exploitation. At the same time, there's such a surge in exploitation at the same exact time, that people are like, oh, exploitation is bad. I agree. But exploitation occurs, even like good dudes end up making bad decisions when it comes to that. And it's because they don't understand as well. So for the chicks, dudes are stupid. Don't expect them to figure this out. And they end up figuring this out much later in life. As welcome. I'd like to talk about chicks and to help maybe solve some confusion around chicks. They're fun. Let's look at the song, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Yes, that's pretty much it. They just want to have fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's like certain age groups where they'll be very angry at certain ages and they'll be very happy at other ages. They tend to be very happy, or that's like what they're supposed to be, at around maybe about 30 to 32, right? And at like 24, they want to be responsible. There's different stages in a chick's life. And wow, what, you're generalizing chicks again? Yeah, you can, because they're like a cult. They end up kind of following the same rubric each time because they're all chasing the same information. They're just as clueless as a dude is when it comes to that, but they have to act like they know. Because if they don't, then they get exploited because, you know, they have to put up a defense. We'll talk about dudes after. I'll end up talking about dudes too. You know, there's problems with the way that dudes go about things. And but I'd like to talk about chicks and to let's talk about that subject. I love chicks. They're beautiful. They're funny. Well, they're funny because they're kind of, you know, what do you mean? What do you like? How do you explain it? Out in the air, their brain's just not there, and they're just trying to have fun. All right. But like I said, dudes exploit it. I've said it a billion times. You know what guys do is they'll basically test things, and a lot of dudes will brute force their way into things to understand them. So dudes make those mistakes, but I'm trying to center this conversation around chicks. It was just a random thought, so I don't know where I'm going to go with this, but for the chicks that think dudes are just complete assholes, you know, they're not. They're not complete assholes. They're just trying to figure out the world. And if you keep playing this game with their head, they might end up not ever understanding it. So, do you know me? What? Look, good seeing. I'm doing good. Thank you. Well, last night, Guardian Angel, you know, helped me out, and the night before that, my best friend also helped me out, and that was good. So here's the thing: is that, you know, dudes end up doing that, and they figure it out, and then an evil person will continue to exploit it. An evil possessed person will continue to exploit. That's why I'm trying to tell y'all, like, you know, people aren't evil deities or something. It's just that we're human beings. We're not perfect. So when it comes to a chick, sometime, you know, when they're like in their teens, they're the most angry, the most mean. Why? Because they have estrogen. It's not that they're just hateful creatures. It's that they still haven't developed their ability to handle those emotions, to handle those hormones. So they just act out. Dudes act out in a different way. You know, they go and they're trying to, like, their testosterone is pushing them to do impulsive things, to figure out the world around them. Oh, that's 1 second here. I'm gonna do one thing. Interesting. I've had that on every stream. Oh. No one might even know my last name at this point. All right, so talking about the chicks, basically, they like to be talked about. They like to be gossiped about. All right. Estrogen is like you have to look it up. Estrogen is a hormone. Testosterone is a hormone. These hormones push your body to have certain behaviors. Like estrogen, it tends to cause negative emotions in females. Estrogen tends to cause positive emotions in males. So that's why you see, like, some dudes are like effeminate, and you see like transgenders and stuff, they're very effeminate because they have pumped estrogen in their system. But what it does is it weakens their bones. So for a dude, estrogen can weaken your bones if you take it in large amounts. For a chick, you get just a negative emotion. And they act on this regularly. They don't know how to handle those emotions. Let me think. Once they get much older, that estrogen isn't really affecting them as much. Oh yeah, talk about that. Talk about dudes and their testosterone in a second. But that's what a lot of people don't understand about chicks. Even chicks don't understand that about other chicks. They're not understanding that this is a hormone that's pumping through their body and causing them to feel negative, causing them to feel emotional. I've talked about this for a very long time. And when I talk to chicks about it, they're like, how dare you? And I'm just like, but it's science. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. You know, like, no, girls. Read the freaking title. Title, man. Reason why I put girls and not women is because like we're talking about females in general. If I put female, then it might come off as like offensive, you know. So women with beards is common in America. I know, right? It's terrible. But so you have these dudes that run these like tech platforms and they're like moderators and hackers and stuff like that. And they'll find out what these chicks actually like. And they'll say exactly what they want to hear. They don't even have to speak English. They just know exactly what these chicks want to hear. So they're going to say whatever makes sense. And these chicks fall for it. There's another part of it. Dudes hand them money, and somehow that makes them look like they're legitimate. It makes them look like, oh, they make all this money and stuff. And chances are they're just giving you money from their paycheck. You know, and their paycheck ain't even paying enough to keep the bills going. But instead of buying gold and silver and being prosperous into the future, they're buying you as a chick, if you're a chick. And you totally see that as like some kind of great, you know, some kind of nice gesture. And it's really not. They're just paying for you. They're just like buying you as a slave, you know. I am Christian, but here's the thing is that, you know, we can have conversation. It's okay if people are being nice. It's just don't spam the chat with it, and don't say things that are going to like, you know, just, I don't know, mislead people basically. But there's a lot of chicks that get the wrong idea. They're just like, oh, that guy gave me money, so he's a nice person. No, he's not. Generally, no. A good dude is going to look at you as a potential threat because a good dude's been fucked over a billion times. So chances that actually a dude ends up giving you money because they care is almost zero. You know what I mean? Like, dudes are freaking impulsive. They're brute force, and they're like, what takes this chick? What makes this chick tick? All right, here's some money. So they give them some money, and then it works a lot of the times. I love you guys. I absolutely appreciate your engagement. So when it comes to chicks, a lot of people get the wrong idea when they're young. A lot of dudes get the wrong idea when they're young. They feel like chicks hate them. It's not that. It's that they have estrogen running through their system. And a chick thinks that a dude, because of his impulses to try to learn things, is just an asshole automatically. That's not really the case. What we're trying to do is we're trying to brute force our way through a lock. We don't understand how that lock operates. We got to try different things. And you got dudes doing terrible things to be able to open that lock. And if it works, they're like, yes, I'm in. Yes, it works. And they don't care who it is. But that's some of the dudes. Many more of the dudes, more dudes than that, they see it and they continue to exploit it. And many of us are like guilty of that. So, you know, we have to be honest about that as well. Many of us have brute forced our way in, and we realize, oh, that's what works. And then we run that for a little bit. You know, that's why you see these stories and of good people having done things in the past that they don't even feel proud of themselves. A lot of the cases, these chicks that are going after those dudes, they didn't have a problem with it at the time. Why? Because it was a learning experience for them too. And so in most cases, it's a chick just trying to get the money at that point. They're like, this dude didn't give me as much money, and he had all that money. Probably didn't have that much money at the time, you know? Probably didn't have the ability to go hand you $1,000 like the other guy that went and wasted his money. The reason why he didn't give you that much money is because he was spending it on gold or spending it on real investments. So you can't get mad at him later. Oh, he has all this money. He never gave me any. It's the reason why he didn't give you any is because he's probably smart. You know what I mean? He's probably just like, oh, man, you know, I want to buy gold. I want to make sure that my future is legitimate. So those dudes that didn't give you money to begin with, they ended up prospering because they didn't spend money on you to go do your nails. Doing your nails, doing your hair, we don't generally care about that as a dude. Chicks think that that's important because chicks look at other chicks and they judge each other. And they got like all these negative emotions between each other. When they turn like 24, it's either they've saved themselves for that time or they haven't. A dude operates differently, but we're talking about chicks here. Generally, the chick either saved herself for that when she's 24 or she didn't. If they did, it's kind of obvious that they did because they're decent people. They're really down to earth type of people. Those are hard to find. But then, even if they are down to earth type of people, do they want to open themselves up to an exploit? Probably not. So it's really, really hard to find these chicks when you're a regular dude. If you're a hacker, if you're a nasty person, if you're, like somebody who's actually smart, you can spot that immediately. So smart people, hackers, nasty people, they're not the same people, but they have the same perspective, the same learning experience. So they're able to detect that. And that's why mostly dudes, when they see a 24-year-old chick, they're like, I'm going to either exploit it or they're going to either exploit it or they're going to leave it behind because it's just too difficult for them to work with. And, when you're dealing with 20-year-olds, like dudes, they're basically like in and out because they're trying to brute force their way in and they realize they can't stick around because they fucked up, right? No, I'm not putting moderators on this channel. I made one moderator. I made it. It was a mistake because now that person just hides like a little creep and probably watches the streams and blocks people from commenting and stuff. I don't know what he does, but whatever the case, dude. When it comes to girls, they're trying to be accepted. When they're super young, they're trying to be accepted because the same way a dude is trying to be accepted and, he's trying to brute force his way in. So a chick at a very young age is trying to brute force their way in to being relevant. Okay. When it comes to like, once they, I looked back and I realized all this. And, one day I just basically formulated an understanding around different age groups. Same thing with a dude. I looked inward and understood where I was at. So when we're young, we're still trying to learn things and we end up brute forcing our way in. So what do you mean it's real? Let's see. Sure, he whoever wanted to be. So I don't know what you meant. You mean it's real? Your family doesn't know you're gay and trans, yet they would kick me out. How would they even know if you didn't let them know? You know what I mean? Like, how would they even know that? If you're a chick, you end up becoming more insecure because you have negative emotions and you might think that people notice these things, but they really don't. Oh, I don't know, man. All right, 1 second. Let me recollect my thoughts for a second here. So right now there's an attention market that's exploiting chicks for their time. And that's only supposed to happen to them when they're way older. All right? They're supposed to be like way older and dead. That's all they got left. But what's happening in today's society is these chicks are being used at a very young age and being dumbed down to lower standards by the attention market. But why is it happening? It's because you got the evil people who understand the chick's mentality and how to exploit them and how to put them into the situation. That's why I advocate against public posting of chicks. Chicks aren't supposed to be out there in the public. They're supposed to be in a home where they're learning things by looking out of that window. They're supposed to use the internet to learn, not to interact, but to learn, because they don't know any better. They don't know any better. Evil goes and exploits them, and dudes end up brute forcing their way, see that as an opportunity. Chicks are not supposed to be out in the streets the way they are. They're supposed to be out in the streets, of course. They're, allowed to be like, hey, I'm a human being. I'm out there and doing stuff. But chicks learn in a different way than a dude. The dude brute forces his way in. The chick is not supposed to brute force her way in. Okay? They're more sensitive. They're emotionally sensitive, especially. So that's the big tragedy that's been going on today with chicks, is that they've been used and exploited because they are out in the public, doing this whole interact and learn. No, you're not supposed to, as a chick, you're not supposed to interact and learn. That's the dude. The dude is supposed to go out there and be leader and to be, out there in the line of fire, basically. We have different roles for different genders, okay? Different learning experiences for different types of people. Now, this is for the dudes. When a chick is being mean to you or being annoying to you, they're trying to get your attention. They're trying to brute force their way in. And if we all ended up basically like just setting them straight right then and there, we'd have a much healthier environment for when they hit that year, 24 years of age. They've already gone through school, they've already gone through college and everything else, okay? When I was growing up, these chicks were getting brute forced by everybody, especially Gen X. Gen X would take advantage of them all the time. And they wouldn't even leave scraps behind, okay? Now, the 20-year-old generation today, they're brute forcing their way constantly. That's why you're not seeing too many actions being taken against those who are harming. And that's why you got the 20-year-old generation that's like, well, Trump did this. And, you look at the Catholic preachers and all these things. They made their mistakes. They're preaching now because they made the mistake. And they don't want you to go through that mistake. They don't want you to ruin your future. Okay? I would say that, okay, somebody asked me if men or women are beneath men. That doesn't mean men. It's that they're supposed to be protected up to a certain point. They're not supposed to interact with the outside world as much. They're not supposed to be out in the line of fire like that. The only time that they're supposed to be out there is like going on. Yeah. But I'm gonna end up taking that person off. So please do wait. I want to make sure that I'm taking off the right person here. Because when they say that stuff, like I'm literally up at 5 o'clock in the morning getting ready for work, and the dude's like, oh, get a job. Like, dude, it's 5 a.m. I can't go to work yet. Dumbass. All right. All hail King / Prophet Trump. Not really. Like, that's not really what his thing is. He's not. That's not what he's trying to do either. So give me a second. I gotta put milk in the coffee. But let's bring up some really good conversation for the chat. Be as bombastic as you like, but don't be repetitive. Somebody already said the thing, get a job. Like, if I see another one of these freaking comments, I'm taking off the damn channel. I guarantee you don't have a job if you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning watching YouTube. Yeah, you probably don't even need a job. You're probably already a millionaire. millionaire telling me to get a job when he's already robbed everybody in the world. But this goes out to the young dudes here. If you continue to brute force your way in, these chicks are never going to trust you, and you're going to have a hard time when they're in their 30s and they never figured it out. Okay. Mm-hmm. That probably came out of the Bible, whatever they just put in there. Billionaires rob squirrels. No, billionaires. I've explained it before. You know, I'm not. This isn't a video about billionaires, but I'll say there's a billionaire strategy and there's a millionaire strategy. The millionaires are failed billionaires. They wish that they could be billionaires. That's why they call out the billionaires. Okay, the billionaires are billionaires because they were involved in everything. When you saw as a millionaire a 10x, the billionaire saw 100 or 1,000x because he stayed in. All right. He didn't panic. He was there to support, not to earn. So anyways, let me move on. There's a lot of chicks today that have literally just crawled into caves, and these caves ended up being drug dens or like a cult group. And they had no idea until they're totally stuck in it. I mean, use Andrew Tate as an example. So apparently with Andrew Tate, you had these chicks that were stuck in a house and they were forced to go live all the time. And then they were getting their money taken from them. It started with Andrew Tate giving like free money to them. Like, here's 100, come over to my house and here's 100. And then he's like, you want to make more money? Sit on this camera. Like I said, it's like, you know, they end up falling into these little cults and they don't realize that they're in the cult until they have been fucked, basically. Smart dudes, they don't make it obvious that that's where they're putting them, that's where they're leading them. Thieves, they're going to lead you into the back alleyway before telling you that that's where they're bringing you. Same thing happens. The worst of the worst end up leading these chicks down into that alleyway before they go and rob them. You know, from a dude's perspective, we get led into an alleyway, we get beat up and robbed. Chick, same thing, but it's usually sexual exploitation. Whenever I've dealt with chicks, I always made it like hard for myself because I've always made it obvious what my intentions are. And these chicks are like, you're a pervert. And it's like, no, I'm just being honest. The other dude ain't being honest. So these chicks are under the impression that the nice dude is the dude, like the dude that is being nice to you immediately is that dude that they want. When in reality, what you're trying to do is, at that point, what they're trying to actually do is trick them into feeling safe so that they can fuck them harder, basically. Yeah, you see this troll? They said, you sound like Tate. Like, how? What do you mean? I'm speaking out against the dude. That's... No. No. You're getting the wrong idea. I'm saying that this is wrong to do. I'm saying that these dudes, they end up brute forcing. Some of them make the oops, they fucked up, and maybe they continuously fuck up for a little bit. But there's an intention behind one person compared to the intention of the other person. Evil possessed dudes will continue that process and make it worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Like Andrew Tate. He had these chicks stuck in a house. They weren't allowed to leave. And then he was stealing their paycheck. So he paid them off one time. They felt safe. They get led into a drug den, well, sex den at that point, and they get continuously exploited and actually robbed. So they're not just getting sexually exploited, but they're also being beaten and robbed. And that goes like across the board nowadays. You see chicks that are just like, that's what they do on OnlyFans. That's their thing. And you could see it in their eyes that they don't like it, but they know that that is what makes them the money. I don't know how by calling them chicks, I mean, like I could use the term girls, but it sounds weird. I could use the word women, but it doesn't apply to all women, and most chicks today are not women. They're not quite developed. You see 30-year-old chicks they still act like children. That's not a woman. So, saying chicks because, hey, it is what it is. They use the example that's been lied to them about to gauge whether or not a dude is this or that. So they're using unreasonable expectations to identify a dude. Why? Because the dude who exploits her is going to lie to them. He's going to lie to that chick. He's going to hand her $100 bill, but likely in Andrew Tate's situation is they got that $100 bill by selling out another chick's body, by pimping. And that's what they intend to do to you too. That's how evil does. They intend to do that to you too, and that's why they're lying to you. They're lying to you about the fact that they're a dude, that they have instincts, that they have a brute force mentality. It's because of testosterone. And it's because we're simple creatures. We're stupid. Expect that we're dumb. If you don't see a dude that's acting dumb, then that person is not being genuine. It's easy to tell if a dude is actually legit if he's a complete idiot. Some chicks get it. Some chicks get it. Like, they're smart. They're rare. I didn't call chicks broads. I think that would be a better term for it, but no, I don't think so. No, I think that's probably very disrespectful. I think the C word is also a very disrespectful term. It's like the N word, but for chicks. The only pass that I give is Britain and Australia, because that's like that's the thing. They use the C word all the time. Like when they do that, it's less offensive to me than when an American or an English person says, like a non-British or non-British accent person says it. So let's see. He barely reads the comments. No, I'm reading the comments. Victate, you're back, huh? I just want to know if you looked up what I said about Jews. You're still on the Jews. This is an issue, dude. Like, you have an issue. Like, I think that you're obsessed with a topic and you can't come out of that cave, that mentality of the cave, that Plato's cave. Okay. Like, we're talking about chicks. Where did Jews come into this? British. Hello there, mate. Would you like a little bit of Binance or some Bitcoin? All right, so the chicks in other countries, not American countries, not Western countries, they understand things better because they're basically looking at everything through a window. They treat dudes better because they're not under fire all the time and getting their brain racked, slapped up all the time. All right. Now, I'm not saying they should be just, kept in a house all the time. But what I'm saying is that they shouldn't be given leadership positions at freaking 18. That's ridiculous. The only people that are giving them leadership positions are the ones that are getting a BJ on the side to be able to give them that position. And that's why the world is the way it is because you're giving young chicks too much control over the world. And you're not actually getting anything done because that's their learning experience. You're putting a chick that's still learning into a position of leadership. Like 19-year-old dude, I also don't trust him to be a leader. But if he's going to be a leader, he runs his own business because he built that business. He built it from the ground up. When a chick's doing it, a dude's just putting them in that position so that they stay emotional and vulnerable and they can blame it on that chick. Be like, oh yeah, we just have Heather over there and she's in charge of accounting, so that's kind of why our books look bad. That's what a dude's doing behind your back. You think a dude put you in that position and isn't talking behind your back and using you as a scapegoat for what he's done wrong? Okay, look, this is a good comment right here. What are you actually saying? Old men run the world, not young women? Um, Not true. See, the thing is that, yeah, technically, but at the same time, no, because dudes are using chicks as a scapegoat to say why things are the other way they are. They're putting chicks in the line of fire so that they can blame it on that chick and be like, it's just a chick in charge. That's why. So that they can have somebody like me say the truth the way it is. You put a chick in charge and she's not ready to do that job, then yeah, things are going to get messed up. The books are not going to look right. But what I'm trying to talk about is actual like relationships and more of like the interaction part of it, where when it comes to how chicks treat dudes and why they're doing that. It's because they just don't know any better. They're in their own form doing a brute force, and that's why they're mean to you. They don't hate you. They're just trying to poke you with a stick and figure out how do you operate. They're not supposed to understand it. And dudes aren't supposed to like fully understand them either. What we're supposed to do is just coexist. We're different people. AOC is ethnically Jewish. I don't really care. I don't like AOC because she's got an attitude. She's pushing for an invasion, just like Elon Omar and a lot of these people. What does it matter? Guys, what does it matter? There's Jewish people over the world. Why is this person so obsessed with Jewish people? Bro, here, I'll put it on subscribers only mode. I'm hoping that everybody here that wants to talk is already a subscriber because I'm gonna put it on. Oh, all right, I wasn't that mean about it, right? Wait for 1 minute. You have to be subbed for a minute at least before you can text. But it was just a random thought. I was like, I woke up, thought about chicks for a minute, thought about my girlfriend too. I've had these conversations with her. Like, when you can have a conversation like this with a chick and she's just like, wow, okay, he has a point. That's your chick. That's a keeper. That's a chick who has faith in you. So that's a good way to find out if a chick's legitimate or not. You be genuine and you don't try to just appeal to her emotions. You don't try to appeal to her confusion. You just be yourself. And then she's like, wow, this guy actually, he makes sense to me. I don't agree with everything he says, but he makes sense because he's got drive. He's got, honesty. That's the chick that you want. So that's a keeper. That's kind of like my girlfriend. She's like a keeper. Been talking to her since, what, year and a half ago at least. And I'm happy to have met her. So I'm lucky to find that chick that I've been dreaming of. Damn, that's a lot of people who were not subscribed. Because like all the comments stopped. That's insane. Where else was I going with this though? The female exploitation situation. So there's these chicks that are like, oh, I was led down that path and, I was basically pushed into these bad decisions. And in a lot of cases they were, like Andrew Tate, pushing these chicks into a bad situation with promises of money. and then they go and rob them afterwards. The dude robs the chick afterwards. That stuff's going on everywhere. And these chicks fall for it because they don't know any better. Now, if you're a person that ends up doing that, usually when we're first interacting with them, that's when we make these mistakes. When we first learn how they operate after brute forcing, that's when the dude makes mistakes. So it usually happens when they're younger, you know? And if you're putting the young chicks into that line of fire, of course they're going to get hurt. Of course they're going to get harmed. Don't put them into the line of fire like that. I get pushed into bad situations too. Yeah. Yeah, if you're a dude, you end up getting pushed in bad situations, but that's normal. Like that's just normal. You're supposed to learn your way out of that situation. Like let's see. That's a bit sexist because if we put it into a gender, let's see, where did that comment go? The hell? Oh, wait, did they just delete that comment? Yeah, they retracted that comment. Look up who owns OnlyFans, you idiot. Look up who runs the porn industry. You don't have pattern recognition. There's chicks that are in charge of that as well. There's chicks that are advocating for that. Because there's a lot of chicks that are controlling other chicks. But they're the face behind a dude that's running the whole operation. They have the money. The dude has the money. The chick is like the moderator that has like the face, like they're the reason why and stuff like that. It's not because they have all the power, it's that a dude put their face ahead of the problem. So if a dude puts you in charge and doesn't boss you around a bit and doesn't tell you exactly what needs to be done and isn't like, you know, very serious about getting the job done right, chances are that dude's exploiting you and you have no idea. And they're using you as an excuse for all of their problems, of all of their mistakes. So just have that in mind. You might be getting screwed by the boss that put you in charge. And I mean, this is like 80% true here. Women shouldn't be in power. It's almost like the ancient Greeks and Romans knew this for a good reason. And the only reason why is because they're emotionally driven and they can be emotionally manipulated. They can be manipulated through their emotions. A dude will treat a chick very nice, and you know she'll be like, "I feel safe in this situation," and he'll be like, "Oh, you want a promotion? Okay, good," and they'll slow track them into the drug den. Okay. By the time the chick is in a dangerous position, she's like, she has no idea she's there until she like figures, you know, she realizes after a while and she's already in a situation that she can't get out of. But what's unfortunate is they may think that it was, they might try to scapegoat themselves as well and then go blame a dude before that for, why was I even in this position before? You were an asshole to me and all this. Like I had a chick come to me like years later. She's like, I'm in a drug den now. I'm like, why? Why are you in there? She called it a trap house. Like, why are you doing that? She, I don't know, man. You know, I smoke weed and stuff. I'm like, well, I mean, that's cool. You know, weed's not bad. But I'm like, why are you in a trap house? And she's the way she's talking is like she's implying that it was because I pushed it on her because I smoked weed while I was talking to her. So she tried to blame it on me after the fact. Chicks they have to cope later and they'll go and blame the dude that they had an interaction with before for the mistakes of another dude, leading them down into that back alleyway to go and rob them. You know, the dude who actually causes the most issues, the dude that makes the most damage and doesn't try to fix anything is the person that ends up getting away with it. And it's sad. So just have that in mind. You know, if you hate a dude, you're like, oh, dudes are the problem. You know, they rule the world, so then the world's fucked up, so dudes are the problem. Understand the reason why you're in that situation is probably because of a dude, but it's not the dude that you're thinking. You're trying to cope. It was the dude that brought you into that back alleyway. Okay? Because I have always advocated against porn. I don't like the idea of porn. I think putting a chick in that position and then selling that content, putting it out there in public, that's basically rape content. Because maybe she enjoyed it at first, but that was caught on camera, and now everybody else can enjoy her, and they didn't do anything to earn that. They didn't do anything, and that's what a lot of young dudes now, they're being like tricked into thinking that that's okay. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. You cannot always put problems based on gender. Both genders are equally the same when it comes to evil. It just depends on the person. You are not the gender. You are not the gender. That's absolutely true, but it's not always true. Like I said, females are more susceptible to their emotions. You know, you got estrogen. Estrogen causes a negative emotion. Dudes will do a play on that. They'd be like, well, she's negative, and if I, come out as positive and play with her emotions a little bit, negative and positive, and try to make her twist her brain a little bit, then they go and they exploit that. So yeah, it does have something to do with gender. But anyways, here. In general, men accomplish through force and conflict. Women use emotional manipulation. Well, the women wouldn't have the ability to manipulate emotionally if they weren't put in positions of power. And they wouldn't be emotionally swayed to make those decisions to emotionally manipulate others. They emotionally manipulate each other. Hey guys, thank you everybody. Whoever's leaving, I'm still here though. These women literally brag about making $200,000 multi-million dollars on OnlyFans and porn in general, somehow men's fault, when in reality they have zero issues with being used in disgusting manners. Well, that's what they've been taught to do through manipulation of the dude. And so, yeah, the dude has a lot of responsibility in that. And what you're saying is mostly correct. I'd say 95% of what you're saying right there is true. The 5% is that they have to stop emotionally manipulating each other. When you're trying to regularly stir up the pot and create conflict, you're like, oh, well, if I harm this person, then they'll make a different decision. No, that's not how it works. In fact, it'll have an unintended consequence. So that's not how you fix the problem, by just stirring the pot up more, because all you're doing is confusing that chick, and they don't understand what actually went wrong. So defeating the problem isn't by stirring the pot up more. Okay, and then she says, because they don't have the brains to see that, they're being used to destroy Western civilization because they don't care about the things such as that. They're extremely selfish. True. And so, but you had said something earlier where men control the world. You have weak men too that are manipulated by these chicks into making certain decisions based on that manipulation. They're thinking that, oh, well, let's allow all the invaders. Let's allow this invasion to happen because I want to make my girl feel like safe or whatever, or feel like she's helped somebody or any of that stuff. She wants to feel important, and she's going to make a bad decision by allowing an invasion into the Western world first. Second, blame the dudes that are already there for all the problems. Yeah, there's a lot of problems. Yeah, many of the dudes are to blame. But yeah, the chicks being in charge are that scapegoat and is the form of attack. You can't stir the pot up and expect a different result. You got to actually slow cook it. You got to look at what's in that pot. You got to put certain things in that pot. So you think women should not lead or govern themselves in society? Whoa. That's not what I'm saying. Isn't about governing themselves. I'm saying that they're governing bigger decisions. They're being used as scapegoats in these bigger decisions. I'm not talking about governing themselves. They should have autonomy to walk around and do what they'd like to do, but stop putting them directly into the line of fire as leaders when they cannot be leaders of everybody else. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to appeal to everybody because that's what they think is make sense to them, and they screw things up. It's an emotional, destruction basically, and in society, because when they're putting themselves in power, they're putting people in greed and manipulation. Not necessarily. That's, I think you're thinking too deep into it. It's that there's chicks that are being used as a scapegoat, and then this chick isn't really able to make the proper decisions because she's emotionally driven rather than logically sound. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that there's weak men. Okay, so they said, if you think about it, war crimes started with because men's greed. But what is a war crime? You really have to. I'm not going to get into the war crimes. That seems like very specific. So I'm not going to really get into that whole thing so much. But here's the thing: is that there's a lot of dudes that I've talked to that are like, they're afraid to say this stuff because they're afraid to offend people. You have to sort of speak up, but you don't have to do all of this. Just support me and I'll continue to say the good word. I'm not emotionally driven. I'm not, I don't have a horse in the race. I found the girl that could be the girl of my dreams, that, one day I'll be able to meet her and, right off into the sunset. All right. So I don't have like a horse in this race. If that makes sense. This country has gone to poop. I'll read your comments, John. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Hey, I appreciate your good blessings to people in the comments too, by the way, John. You're very, very helpful to this community. It's screwed too many people. I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter who's running the country. Yeah, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day, because there's so many people that are emotionally manipulated indirectly and directly. You look at the Sam Bankman-Fried situation. You got SBF saying that, what's her name? She had all the funds, so she's the one responsible, but she's like, but Sam Bankman-Fried told me to do that. So, you know what I mean? Like, it was the dude that told her, is like, hey, you're in charge. Do what you would like to do. Oh, hey, there's money over here. Put it there. That's what the dude ended up using her as a scapegoat. And then she's like, but he used me as a scapegoat. And it is what it is. 18-year-old trans for president. That would be icing on the cake. I know, right? That'd be interesting, right? But no, you can't get an 18-year-old president. You have to be 35 and up to be able to be president. Do I believe in God? Absolutely. Oh no, you're not being sour. This is literally how you have conversation. You get information through this way. If you look at things through the lens of logic rather than emotions, then you can get down to the real truth of the matter. And it's okay to be a bit of emotional, and it's okay to say some things that are incorrect sometimes, because we're not perfect. And so, and that's the problem in today's world, is that you have a lot of weak men that don't want to say the truth about what's actually going on. When a chick sees a dude like me saying these things, she thinks that I'm hateful. No, I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to make it so that you're not the reason why. I'm trying to make it so that you're not a scapegoat for some other dude that actually wants to be evil and destroy the planet, because that's what they're actually doing. They put you in charge to blame it on you. You don't see what's going on here? They're not putting you in charge because you were a good decision. I mean, think within yourself. But you should feel good about yourself in the sense of simply just give yourself a chance. Yeah, I bet you might be mentally drained. I've been mentally drained before, but I've been through it, man. My brain is like, it's acclimated to this environment, so I can continue thinking like this. Eventually, I do get a bit of a headache, but not right now. I think strong/weak is different from kind/mean, and we should try to be both kind of strong. And that's just how it is. My old boss, he was saying that there's childish mentalities and there's adult mentalities. To have both is a blessing. That's how we have to be as men. You have to have a little bit of both. You be a little bit childish, a little bit adult. You got to be responsible, but you're not going to be perfect. That's just how it is. That's what makes a great leader. Somebody who can kind of understand where everybody's at. But with a chick, They're trying to appeal to everybody emotionally, and they just want everything to be good, 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 good. With a dude, especially an expletive dude, they'll end up being like, oh, everything's bad, and I'm the strongest, and that's what leadership is. It's not really. It shouldn't be like that. You're funny. So let's see. We'll read that. When we scroll up, we'll go to Ural. 2077, huh? Interesting. 2064. Sir Isaac Newton's. I think it was Newton or one of these guys. They theorized, they predicted that the end of the world would come like 2064 or somewhere around that time. Every powerful man, there's always powerful women helping him emotionally, not physically, not mentally. No, emotionally. That's what a chick is there for, is to be an emotional crutch, basically. The chick is supposed to nurture, and she's supposed to choose what a good leader is. And like I said, there's so many chicks that are just misled. They're manipulated, used as scapegoats, and they were never actually taught what a good man is. A good man is going to be honest with you. They're going to be strong, but they're going to be honest and strong. A good dude isn't going to be like, hey, I'm strong and fuck you. That's mean. That's not really powerful. You can see it in their eyes that they're just not really that useful as a person when it comes to knowing how to change things, how to be adverse, or is that the word? When in reality she can lead, but can't because of her gender, and society always says she's powerful. If she's powerful, no. What you're saying is what you're dealing with right now. This person in the comments that keeps saying this stuff that, women are oppressed and everything. Women are not oppressed. If you have a household, if you own your house, and you don't have any agreements, or there's nobody that's actually living in that house, if you're just by yourself in that house, you can build a garden, you can build a farm, you can build a wall, you can build your community. You're not held back from that. This is a capitalist nation. Ownership is what runs your control of your world in your home. Okay. That doesn't mean you can go walking into people's rooms if you got somebody living with you and start being, acting a fool and start throwing things around like what I deal with. Okay. That's what I got to deal with. It's people throwing my shit around and walking in without, any sort of notice. And that's the kind of shit that I'm dealing with. It's a woman that's gotten out of control. She thinks that because she had the money, because she's going on a computer and she makes enough money to keep the home on, that now she can be an asshole to everybody. And she thinks that's a male's role in society, is just to be an asshole and to get everybody else into everybody else's way. That's because she's been abused. You know what I mean? That's an abused woman that's been harmed, and she doesn't understand how the actual world works. She's been manipulated by a male to think that the strong dude is just being an asshole to everybody, and that's how he's successful. No, that's not successful. Look at them now. If they're living off the government and they're 50 years old, 60 years old, and they're still living off the government, that's not a strong male. There's I'll give you an example. My dad, he went and he built stuff even after his body, his his health declined, and he still continued to work. He still continued to build. He built an empire out of nothing. He wasn't an asshole to go get that done. He was intuitive, and he chased a goal, like a logical goal. Women have not evolved to think beyond their well-being and that of their offspring. And that's okay, right? And that's why they're not supposed to be leaders, because they're emotionally driven. They're supposed to be nurturers. There were no female leaders when we were hunting woolly mammoths. There were no female leaders when we were hunting woolly mammoths, correct. Let's see. Do I support Trump? Absolutely. Absolutely. Trump is the man. He's a genius. He's a military genius, economic genius, and he's a culturally fair person. He tried to make it fair for everybody. He tried to get it so that we can coexist. The only thing he dropped the ball on was not putting Fauci in fucking jail. How dare that dude? Fucking asshole, man. Fauci, dude. Did you see the recent shit with Fauci? Go look at his testimony. Every single answer is I plead the fifth. Every single answer in a row. Boom, 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 boom. They asked him, what is the color of the carpet? Fauci's like, by the advice of the council, I plead the fifth. Really? You can't even tell me what, oh my God, is this a pen or a pencil? I plead the fifth. What? Literally, man. The guy's a fucking joke. It's insane. So he decides not to answer the questions, and that's not what he's pardoned on. What he's pardoned on is, like, right now he's in contempt. That's what they're going to get him on. They're not going to get him on all the crimes that he's committed by misleading the American people. He's going to get fucked on the fact that he's in contempt of Congress and doesn't want to answer questions. So that's the kind of shit that's going on with the dudes, with the evil-minded dudes. I think most people tend to view being emotional as weakness, but it's not always a weakness. The thing is, most people don't know how to balance it, and that's what it's all about. To be a leader, you got to balance the things. You got to know, you can't just be like, hey, that person's crying because they lost their entire house in a burning mess. Toughen up, man. That's insane. You got to help them. You got to be able to know what the people want. You can't just make your whole tribe just sad and what are you protecting women from? What from men? Why are you protecting women from what? From men? I don't understand what you mean. When you guys are the reason that we needed protection in the first place. What are you talking about? We're a society. Women's biggest threat is emotional discord of other women. Women working up other women saying, oh, well, this guy, this was just a treat. He gave me everything I wanted. He gave me $1,000 out the door. And then the other chick's like, oh, man, I want a story like that. And then they go chase the rich guy. That's your greatest threat as a woman. Being emotionally swayed. It's hard to support someone that will go back on their words, yeah. Like tempering a blade. I don't know what that was in relation to. Bro, where did that come from? I don't know what that said. Yes, sir. Trump 2020, 2030, 2028. It's a complete shit show. Yep. Fauci killed millions of people. Yeah. Well, he killed up to 1 million people and maybe millions of people across the planet. Yeah. That's not what I'm talking about. You're clearly ignoring the question. Make your own version of it. Well, ask me the question again. Try to reframe it because I don't know exactly what you're explaining. What you're trying to ask. What about Epstein? How could you still support Trump after that? Like, I'm genuinely curious. No hate. So I've explained this in my last stream, and this is a good time to talk about it again because this is about girls. So I'll give you an example first. My ex-girlfriend, she was in high school, and I was literally within that range. I was, going out with her, and she was like 2 years difference, and I was already out of school. It's like 18, she was 16, and basically it's like I had parental permission and stuff. It was like all legitimate. And she said she wanted to be a massage therapist, and she wanted to go through exploratory program to go and be a massage person. So this is an actual occupation. All right. She wanted to go and be a massage person professionally. She was going to go to college for it, in fact, as well. What she decided not to do was the exploratory program where she would actually go and do this as an intern. So it's a legitimate business. And these young chicks, these chicks in their teens, they'll end up going and being a massage parlor person. She'll work as a massage therapist. And they'll work on animals as well as humans. They'll do a lot of different things. Virginia Giuffre, I think she was 16, and she ended up being a massage therapist in one of Trump's hotels, okay? And she was probably interning. Jeffrey Epstein took her out of that situation and started using her in sexual situations, selling her off. Trump didn't do anything wrong. Trump wasn't abusing Virginia. In fact, Trump brought Virginia to the stand. He's like, he was the one of the voices that was calling out for justice for these victims to begin with. When Trump, what was it? There was like some kind of trial that had happened, and it was for Bill Clinton, I think. It was either the trial or the debate. They brought a lineup of chicks that had made accusations against Bill Clinton. And dude, the guy, like Trump, has been trying to sound the alarm on this for a long time. What are you talking about? Trump's bad and everything. Like, dude, the guy actually took action where others didn't. How could I not support the guy? Let's see. And still will never be held accountable, and it's a complete show. It's all an act. It's not. Has anyone ever noticed no one in government actually gets in trouble? What's your occupation? No, Faucian medical establishment will not face justice, sadly. So, yeah, once you see the world as it is, once you hit like, 30 or so, that's when you start realizing that nothing is perfect. And there's reasons why the people in charge don't see any action taken against them until years later. The justice system is slow moving. Look at the Tate brothers. They're just now going to jail for things that happened in 2010 or 2014 or around that time. The justice system moves slow, and it's because they need to find all the pieces, and they need to find a legal avenue to go after the people. That's what's really going on. And they also want to know if that person is actually a serious issue. Did they fix themselves? That's another thing that they're trying to look for. And that's reasonable. So, would you want to put somebody in prison after they have, fixed their ways, tried to go back on, maybe the harms that they've done? Would you really want to put somebody, into a cage after they tried to fix it? No. What did the Tate brothers do? They backed up what they had done. They said what they had done is justified. That's what they said. So they never went back on the crimes that they committed. They never apologized. They're completely unapologetic. Like, they deserve to be thrown in a fucking cage. It is what it is. There's some people that can fix themselves. There's some people that want to actually make society a better place and prevent that kind of an atrocity occurring, further. And that's what I'm doing kind of in here in this stream, is that I know where I fucked up in the past, and I know how to prevent it in the future. And I know how to make everybody understand, like, you're not going to miss out by doing the right thing. Don't make it hard for yourself in the future. Don't harm these girls. Don't exploit them. That's what this video is about. Move forward. Stop looking into the past. Let's move forward together. Nobody's perfect. When it comes to Fauci, the guy profited so much on it. And he's right now pleading the fifth. He's already pardoned for his actions. Why doesn't he want to comment? He's not going to go to jail for the things that he's done. He's going to go to jail for contempt of court. Rand Paul is absolutely correct. Yeah, if we actually learned from the past mistakes, this world would be a much better place. And a lot of, that's what John said. And a lot of the problem is that a lot of people don't understand this, and they don't want to maybe fix the problem further ahead, into the future. They don't want to be honest with the things that they've done. They're scared. And it's because of the damn trolls. The trolls come by and they're like, oh, he did this thing. We're going to go after him now. Why would you do that? You know what I mean? You got the Tate brothers saying, yeah, I did that, and I don't care. I'm unapologetic. But then you got people that are, oh, I did something and I fucked up, and, let's try to fix the problem from here on. That's the person that you want to actually forgive and work with. That's the person that can be a leader in the future, because he's been in the darkness. That's like a Jordan Peterson. I don't agree with a lot of what Jordan Peterson says, but he is a person with remorse. He cares. That's why he is an inspiration to me. I support ICE, and a woman called me racist for just for supporting. Yeah, that's silly. That's terrible. But that's why, chicks aren't supposed to be in leadership positions. They're just emotionally driven. So give me a moment. Yeah, nobody's perfect in this world, and everybody's committed some kind of an atrocity, whether they knew it or not. And once they've realized the atrocity that they committed, if they're trying to actually fix that problem genuinely, and they say sorry and God, I'm sorry, then work with that person. Try to fix the issue and try to find the actual problem. So in today's society, what's the problem? We got too many, especially young chicks, but chicks of all ages, being exploited on the internet, and they're actually jumping into that situation, and they think that that's okay to do, and they're benefiting from it, but it's money. Money isn't worth as much as your soul. Don't sell your soul. A lot of these chicks think that that's what they have to do in order to make the money. No, use your brain. You can be logical about it. Grow a farm. You're being left alone a lot of the times. I don't know, man. If you look at everything logically, it doesn't make sense to support him. Who's? Like who? I pray for you, John. Pray for John. Are you talking about Trump? Potato guy? Go to sleep, guy. Go to sleep. We don't need everybody here, but it's good to see people here, and I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate your conversation. We don't always have to agree on everything in order to make a difference. So, oh, you're mentally tired yet? I already went through the motions, and I have been mentally exhausted for years now. And you eventually break out of that. You're able to rise above it. But you're never invulnerable to exhaustion. But I'd like to know what you mean, potato fiend. Potato fiend. Are you Irish? Please tell me you're Irish. But hopefully Fauci, here's the thing is that a lot of the liberal side, they could have coexisted, but they decided to take out Trump supporters because of the hype goblins. There's people that are fake Trump supporters. They're not even actually supporting fairness. They're trying to make the conservative side look bad. And then the conservative commentators, they jump on that bandwagon, they jump right on that horse, and they're like, yeah, all the same demographic of people are causing most of the problems, the violent crimes in the world. That's what they're riding on. But it's because of a hype train. If you really looked at it from a reasonable perspective, what I've said is those stuck in the inner city, they're under fire. They're in a war zone, man. Especially in New York City. Especially in the really hardcore cities. No wonder they commit crimes. No wonder they attack without thinking. No wonder they're doing these things. It applies to whites, blacks, Asians, whoever it might be. You got thieves, you got violent attacks, you got all these things happening in the cities because they're in a war zone. If you understand it from that perspective, and then you see there's mostly black people in those cities, well, no wonder most of the crime is caused by a certain demographic. It's because that's who's in those cities. That's the reason why. Let's talk about that. Let's not just point the finger and be like, oh, them. That's insane. That's why we get all the problems in the world, really, is because we keep pointing fingers, scapegoating over here or over there. I could say that I'm not perfect. I've been part of some of the problem, but I've tried to fix it. And my intentions were actually, let's say I went online because I was having a hard time finding people in real life. And I went online and I found my way into sort of dark places, I guess. And so I made bad decisions, in quite a few bad decisions, but they were all online. I didn't physically, harm people. I didn't trick people into, jumping off a bridge or anything. There was none of that, So my intention was to be included, and I brute forced my way, and I learned some things. And so, once I saw the actual truth, I'm like, oh, well, okay, let's try to fix that. And that's what you want to see in the world. You want to see those who have seen the darkness, take it from Jordan Peterson, to go and fix those problems that they had shined light on. And I think I'm going to end it with that. I think this has been a really good conversation. I appreciate all the likes. I got 16 likes on this video. We got, probably hundreds of people that came on. I've seen those numbers going up, down, up, down. We had like 30 people in the live at once. So I'm glad to see people in it, people engaging, people that have, points of view from everywhere. Let's continue this conversation. Have a great day. I hope your day is blessed. We got a Thursday, Thirsty Thursday. Drink some water, drink some milk, be healthy. Have a good day, everybody. And I don't know why, but I feel like I want to give somebody had my Cash App. Yes, actually, I'm not going to give my Cash App on this because I want to keep this legitimate conversation and just keep it within certain bounds. I'm not going to even bring that up. If you want my Cash App, go to the last live, and there's at some point, it's in there. Actually, check my shorts. There's a live highlight from yesterday's stream. Yesterday's stream was like hours ago, so I'll probably upload that live. So check out my shorts too. Japan got hit by an earthquake. I did a little reaction video on that. I already got 1,000 views on that. So anyways, have a good day, everybody. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a blessed day as well. And pray to God. Wake up, pray to God, speak it out loud. No shame at all. Thank you very much.